Cool. Yeah, so Cray and Bing, thanks for joining and thanks for your time today. I just gonna explain how I met them and what we are working on to you guys. So basically, Clay, Bing, they are the team Multipool. You guys decided to the name?
Multipool.
Okay, so yeah, you guys are a team from the Multipool, and both of them, you guys from Southeast Asia and Singapore, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like the past 2 months, we have been working on another incubation program, which is run by Singapore government and 500 startups. That's the like a VC firm in San Francisco. And then they have done just ideation stage, and then they're gonna start. They just started to build the product right now. So to compare you guys and them, slightly a little bit advanced in terms of the stage. Also, they already started to build the product. But thing is, this time, the reason why I wanted to invite them, and then we also can hear their pitch today is basically we can get the insight what they have done in terms of the user research, how to get the insight, and how they decided to build the product and the type of the feature today too, right? Because that's probably useful for everyone that you guys are working on right now. And then Craig, maybe like before we're gonna start to like a pitch session, you could, you and Bing, you guys can give us the kind of like a background of you guys too.
Yeah, so hi, I'm Craig. I used to be, not used to be, I still am an artist. I've been an artist for the last 10 years. And also I'm an avid gamer. Vin?
Okay, so for my background is I have 10 years more about more in IT. So I'm programmers. So I joined with Craig as a CTO role.
Yeah. So where we came together during our incubation as well. So previously our ideas were somewhat similar, but slightly different in different verticals. But in the end, we decided to join into a team and do this together. Yeah, should I start, Jin?
Right. So like we could have the same format, basically like a 5 minutes pitch and a 5 minutes Q&A, and then multiple. You guys can do it at the beginning, and then all the teams from the AI incubation lab, you guys can ask the question for them too. And then you guys can stay probably 30 to 40 minutes after your pitch. Also 3 of the teams. We are supposed to be 4 teams, but thing is I haven't seen another team. So 3 of the teams, they're gonna pitch it, so you guys can basically ask the question. And then in terms of asking question is if you are investor, what type of information you want to know in order to invest them. All right, that's basically the kind of criteria of the question. And then you can take over my screen to Craig.
Okay.
Right.
So can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
So, okay, just a quick introduction. Our company is called Multipool. Multipool is really a video gathering platform that provides low friction, multi-directional video interaction for gamers. If you were to think about what Discord is compared to Slack, so Slack is really the business providing communications for business, and Discord provides communication for gamers. We hope to be the Zoom version of gaming. And so we will intend to have an open development widget ecosystem so that we provide a kind of sandbox experience for the gamers to create personal hangout in many ways for them to customize their usage and customize the aesthetics of their page, or we call it room. So I will just go a little bit more into the problem because I understand from Jean that perhaps that's something that will benefit you guys as well. So we found out that from our various very thorough customer interviews that there are a few problems or rather a few issues in gaming. So one of the biggest problem is that gaming these days feels quite one-dimensional just because there are a lot of game copycats. So like from Dota, you will have copy like League of Legends, and then what's the other one? Area of Valor or something. Yeah. And then even for Twitch, right, you will have like a Chinese copy, or you will have like some other smaller players. And that basically, because of the way they have been monetizing games, such as using in-game ads or using microtransaction, it really brings the gaming experience away from the core sort of entertainment and fun of what we all love games to be, into somewhat a rather ultra consumerist sort of product. So, and the mainstream gaming culture is really built around an individual, right? We look at Twitch, it's about the personality, it's about the popularity of the streamer a lot more than about the game content. And thereby, therefore, games are large, and because games are largely multiplayer and communal in nature, I feel that these platforms are not best capturing the spirit of gaming. And these are some of the trends that we also observe, right? There's a growing number of aspiring gaming micro-influencers. So these days, you are no longer just gaming or gamer, or you tend to want to be a kind of influencer as well. And so one of the key stats is that just chatting has become the top genre on Twitch in the last 2 years, and it's no longer gaming as the main sort of content on Twitch. And of course, the frequency of ads becoming more disruptive, and the types of ads becoming more irrelevant. We haven't done a very, very thorough research into why the type of ads are becoming more irrelevant, but we suspect that there is also a kind of lack of data, or the way the data is being analyzed and used is not the best. And also, gaming workflow products largely designed for PC usage. So if you think about Discord, you think about Twitch, they are largely dependent on PC usage. And you need, in fact, quite a powerful PC to run this quite smoothly. So based on these observations, customer interviews, and observations of the market trends, we think about where do we position in the gaming sort of landscape. So like I was explaining before earlier, that if Discord is to Slack, we are the gaming version of Zoom. And the arrow that you see are also in terms of the way the competitors are sort of moving into this arena. So Discord already started to do a bit of video sort of capabilities, and Zoom is trying to think about how it can be used outside of business and office environment. And the two closest competitor that we sort of found are Gather.town and Bramble.live, whereby they have already started to gamify the video conferencing platform. So I'll just run through the how our prototype and how it works. So basically, you can create room, and you can make a room private or public. To build a room, you'll be no code, and based on the no code tools, you are able to mix and match and create unique events activities. And we want to employ a second screen usage, whereby widgets and elements can be swapped between the main screen and the mobile screen. We also want to use the mobile as an extra control, whereby you can create more interactivity or more reactions, video reactions in this case, and real-time swapping of these widgets. So this is an example of the room builder. And basically, the gamers will come into this place to hang out before and after the game. And during the game, this is what the players will see. They get to have full screen gameplay, and they can cast out the widgets to the mobile. And if you have audience in the room, this is what the audience will see. And this picture at the back, if you're familiar with Twitch, this is what is called squad streaming on Twitch, whereby you can see 4 streams simultaneously. Okay, so thinking about user benefits really is, like I've explained before, more ways to interact and more productivity, or at least a sense of productivity for the gamers, and more customization and more personalization for them. And so in terms of the customer segment, we are really looking at the ones that are left out of the ecosystem, the existing dominant ecosystem. So even in terms of games, we'll be looking at browser games, casual games, tabletop, party games, co-op games, right? These are the kind of games that tend to be left out of the mainstream narrative. So mainstream narrative tend to be really caters to the gaming enthusiasts, and over here we're really looking at more casual sort of gamers. And even for the age group, you can think of them as also slightly older gamers, probably someone who has the income to afford a fast-free gaming and entertainment sort of experience. And our business model, we want to look at freemium with microtransactions. We are also looking at taxing, kind of taxing the currency exchange. So if we were to use a platform currency, we can just tax them 3%, just like what PayPal is doing. And therefore, keeping the rest of the revenue, giving the rest of the revenue back to the gamers. Yep, I hope it was not too rushed. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 7 minutes. Let's take 2 to 3 questions from the audience. By the way, this is like my first time also like to hear actually proper pitch, and they haven't practiced any of like the pitch, so I just asked them like last night. All right, let's take a question from audience. Anyone has any questions? All right, go ahead, Asma.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a very interesting pitch, and I think very exciting product to work on. I know very little about this environment, so my question is a little bit broad to clarify for myself, and also maybe something worth thinking about for you. What are the competitors like? Like, are there already products or like features from other platforms like this that do something similar? And how do you see yourself differentiating from them?
So basically, when we think about the giants, right? Your Discord, Twitch, Facebook gaming, YouTube gaming, they are probably like a super app, super platform. They have features that covers almost every part of the landscape. But then again, when we think about these apps, we associate them based on their primary and core usage. For example, Discord, even though you can create various ways to they have a new sort of feature called stage discovery now, or they even have like mini games in the platform. But primarily Discord is used for communication. It's used for voice chat. Twitch is used for live streaming, and even for Twitch streamers, they tend to download their live streams, re-edit them, and re-upload it to YouTube. So each of these platforms sort of occupies a very specific point in the gaming workflow, and as much as they try to cover a bigger area in the vertical, the common usage of them is still pretty much in their specific position. So I think we identify that this video conferencing portion is quite unoccupied, and therefore we want to be there.
Yeah, thanks for a very clear and nice pitch. I'm thinking about it's a little bit connected to what we have been working on this week, the customer persona. I'm interested in how did you find out that that was the target customer, focusing on board games and what do you say, browser games. So yeah, that's what I'm curious about. How did you think about focusing on that specific group?
Yeah, so at the beginning, you can think of them as you can think of my process as two directions. So from the top down and bottom up. So from the top down, I will really start with researching the market. So I will go to sites like Newzoo. So Newzoo is like the survey for games industry. And over at Newzoo, you can already get information about gamer segmentation, for example. So on Newzoo, they segment gamers into 9 different categories based on their viewing, playing, owning, and socializing. So all these factors will affect their behaviors in the sort of the broader gaming consuming pattern. And on the other end, because I've been gaming my whole life, so I've come across many different gamers and many different sort of ways of thinking about gaming. I also sort of rely a little bit on my own personal experience and intuition, and sort of imagining a friend, and this friend is having this particular habit, this particular behavior and consuming pattern, and I kind of give it a very broad sort of persona there, and then I try to match that kind of intuition with the research.
One more question from audience. By the way, these two questions are great questions.
I could ask. Yeah. So, how have you incorporated user feedback? Because you talked about you've done research and you've talked to prospective clients. How did you incorporate that feedback and into the product that it is now, or how will you incorporate it in the future?
Right. So because the entire process is quite iterative. So compared to the raw sort of information that we collect from customer interview to this slide that you're looking at, it really feels quite different, because in the whole process, it's also merging with market research, merging with a kind of solutioning and testing on our own, and to arrive at how the customer feedback influence our decisions it has a much more sort of embedded and intrinsic sort of way. It is not so direct, and because when we think about gamers, they are really quite wide in terms of their behaviors and in terms of their preferences. Just think about game genres, for example. There's really so many different types of game genres. So, and there's only that many people that I can reach out to. So a lot of it got to do with really sort of synthesizing the various information together and create a kind of overarching insight about the industry, and from there to develop the solution. Does that answer your question, Jack?
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. Dean, do you have any comment that you wanted to add as you are CTO and mainly like building a product?
Okay, for my part, right, because like Cray is more focused on a business and a product. Also, I focus a little bit of products and the technology. So during I also want to chip in a little bit about Jack's question, right? Like how we build up the solution based on the interview with the customers. So we have to do a lot of research. Like it's not only interview with customer, but we also have to try to use our competitors. So to figure out, okay, these features, why the user they like it, or why they have to use it but they don't like it. So then we come up with a list of all the features of like the competitors. So we combine, we do a metric, we calculation, do some calculations. Then we in the end we know, okay, maybe this market the competitor is not doing good yet. Then we can chip in the niche market for it. Yeah. And also we also have to see in terms of technology also, like some competitor like which they belong to AWS, so the cost of infrastructure maybe they don't care. But if we jump directly into them, right, maybe the cost is so high, and I try to calculate the cost. If we try to compete with Twitch, no way for us to win. Yeah, some information for you.
Yeah, and also in a way thinking about the sort of health of these companies, right? So like for example, examining Discord, I think if I'm not wrong, the Discord has a revenue of just 140 million in 2020, but they have revenue of 100 million, and they have 140 million users, and 100 million revenue is per annual. So that's equivalent to 10 cents of profit per user per month. which is really low, then that's where we try to understand why is the revenue so low, even though their valuation is right now at $7 billion, and your users are quite high. So we try to sort of work backwards and try to have some kind of forensic sort of analysis of the company to understand, okay, maybe that's how they work. They provide a lot of free features for the user, and the subscription, like the Nitro Boost and things like that, are really quite optional. And it goes back to their sort of principle of being a company that is designed by gamers for gamers, you know, and these are the kind of positive values that we want to also adopt and think about how we can help gamers in the same way Discord help gamers. Yeah.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, thank you so much for joining. I asked you guys seriously the last minutes, like last night, and then you guys are very very helpful and kind to join today's this pitch session. So if you guys have a time, it could be great that you guys can stay like extra 30 to 40 minutes, and then you can hear their pitch. You could ask their question. Yeah, and then we can start to do other teams pitch as well. Who wanted to go next? Today we have 3 companies: Namaste.ai, Greenbook, and Stan Davis. Right. Anyone go first? All right. In that case, oh yeah, Jack, you are muted. So in that case, go ahead.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah. Let's do this.
And then you guys can choose like a next company. All right.
Okay, I'm gonna share the screen. Let me know when you can see the screen. Okay, so yeah, didn't prepare a slide for describing who we are because I wasn't expecting visitors, but that's a good surprise. So for the visitors, so Stan Davis, we are trying to solve a problem that we have faced as individuals ourselves, trying to market for hotels. So in this, we would make pictures, videos for hotels, and then in the end, we would not get compensated for that. Also, we are trying to solve a problem that we faced as travelers, in that you would see something on Airbnb or on booking.com, but then once you get there, it's not what you expected. So we are trying to solve both problems. And the way we do it is that we use content creators to create content for the hotels and create a system and a platform where these creators can be compensated accordingly, as well as driving down the cost of marketing for these hotels. So I'll explain in a bit, just walk with me. So I want to talk about market share. I want to talk about opportunity, revenue streams, and implementation. So these are the questions I'll be answering in this presentation. So this is a market share of high vicissitude. A lot changes every time. And here's something interesting. So this is the market share of vacation rental bookings. And what we notice is that the top 3 dogs, Airbnb, HomeAway, and Booking.com, all have about 15% of the market share. But then Airbnb was founded in 2008, and HomeAway in 2004, and Booking in 96, Agoda 98, Oyo 2013. So they're all vastly different dates. There's like a mix of all kind of like age groups in there. But then they all managed to have like a homogeneous, share of the market. And what this tells us is that there is opportunity in this market, as opposed to, like, let's say, the phone industry, where the old companies still have are still the dominant ones in the market, and new ones are struggling to, get a share of the market. So what this tells us is that, one, if we work on our digital strategy, on our positioning, and on our branding, we, just like anyone else, have a chance at getting a fair share of this market if we play our cards right. So speaking of opportunity, So hotels spend on average about 25% of their revenue on marketing. And this is in addition to the about 15% fees that they usually pay for these hosting platforms. So we see this as unnecessary spending on the side of hotels, and we want to drop this from 40% to 20%, slashing it by about 50%. The way we do this is that every person that can create good content, whether they are guests of that hotel or they are influencers, can market for these hotels, hence reducing the costs. Besides that, we'll also be promoting our platform and the hotels using traditional tools such as search engine optimization, email marketing, organic and paid social media. But then the big question you may have is, but where do you foresee getting these clients from? You know, where will these people booking hotels come from? Where will the influencers come from? Well, we are a data-driven team, and we work on, you know, hypothesis and testing, and you know, we're not shy to show off our data. So when you look at influencer marketing, the global spend has increased by up to 2,000% in the last 5 years, from 500 million to 10 billion. This shows that there's increasing interest in people who either want to be influencers or want to use influencing as a tool. It's also not a coincidence when you observe that the searches for influencer-related terms have also increased by 1,500% in the last 3 years alone. So this is like a situation of people putting their money where their mouth is. So we have several ways that we could make money. One, our revenue streams include bookings, you know, traditional way. We also experimenting with trying to sell the content. In addition to that, we also experimenting with paid ads. We're experimenting with concierge services. For example, if somebody visits a hotel and they're interested in also going for a safari, we're also experimenting with NFTs because we're dealing with exchange of content for money. So NFTs are also a huge opportunity right there. So there's countless of ways that we could capitalize on revenue, and we are not shy of experimenting and trying and implementing these features one by one because we are a data-driven team. Okay, so I'll sip water and wet my throat as you enjoy the 10-second break. Okay, so in terms of the implementation, we use Agile, but not this kind of Agile. Instead, we use this kind of Agile. What the difference is that we are focused on implementing the features that we've prioritized right now. And much as we do have a blurred vision of the short to medium term goals, we are not shy to say that we don't have the full implementation from start to end in place. And we believe this is the right thing to do because we will be iterating, we will be adding features in every step, and things may change by that time. Maybe NFTs will not be a thing by that time. Maybe, you know, something will have happened, and I don't think it's wise. We don't think it's wise to you know, clearly map out everything from start to end from the beginning. We work in hackathon style. We have one coming up this weekend. So we just sit as a team and just code and implement these features. We have our own, you know, project company on GitHub, and yeah, we are our own reviewers and all that. I'll just show you a quick demonstration of how the app looks like as of now. Let me know if you can't see the screen. So this is the recycler view right here, showing some of the top picks for the hotel. A user might be able to log in. Here, there's going to be like a graphic explaining what these are. You can join as a creator, you could join as a traveler, or you could join as a hotel owner. If you join as a creator, you'll be able to add content. And here are some prompts just to show you the quality that we expect of you as a creator. This is, of course, abstracting away the login process, which we will implement this weekend. If you log in as a manager, you're able to see some of the content that your hotel is related to, either by location, by hashtag, however we will implement that. And you're able to adopt any of this content into your user profile, or you could also choose to purchase the content. And then lastly, you could also join in as a traveler, where you're able to see some of the hotels and book them as well. An important thing to note is that a traveler could also act as a creator, and a creator could also act as a traveler. So it's not really a sharp divide in that case. Yep. I'll take questions now.
Cool. Let's take 2 questions from the audience. Creo being, it's like, obviously first time for you guys to see their business idea. So if you guys have any question, that could be like give a fresh question to them.
Yeah, sounds good. Like, I think the ideas are all very interesting, and I think they differentiate from the current sort of solutions. But I just wonder whether how what makes me want to go to your app compared to the existing apps that I'm already using. Even though these features may be awesome, but there is a kind of cost of switching, right, to switch to another platform. So is there something there for me to sort of offset this cost?
Yes. So one, hotels should care because by switching, they're able to save on the cost of marketing. Currently, they're paying so much for marketing in existing platforms, leave alone the fees that they also pay in addition to that. In our platform, the hotels will be able to, pay less, as well as the creators, people who create content will also be able to make money, because look at Instagram right now, there's so much content by influencers, and the influencers are struggling to monetize this content. They don't know what to do with it. But then this is content that could be used to boost the social proof system, because essentially what we're creating is a social proof system where you could trust what you see before you book, and you don't have, because nowadays the way it works is that what you see is what the hotel wants you to see, because they upload that picture and those pictures and those videos. So by creating the system of social proof, the visitors also, the travelers will also care, because now they can trust that what they see is exactly what they'll get.
Thank you.
Vin, do you have any question?
Okay, Jack, I have a question. So in these pictures of your application, right, I see there's three customer, right? Like one is a hotel, one is influencers, and one is travelers. So who is the main customer that you serve?
Yeah, so the main customer that we serve is the creator, because they are the ones who, first of all, are facing the most challenges right now in the market. Remember the graphs I showed you about the influencer market? It's a growing market, it's growing rapidly fast, and I think the pace of innovation is not growing fast enough against that. And there's plenty of room for creativity, for how we're going to implement it. So we are focusing mostly on creators. We want them to feel as comfortable as possible, making money on the platform. But then if creators are happy, as we have seen with TikTok, as we have seen with Instagram Reels, then everyone in the system is happy.
Okay, so the main benefit that you bring to a influencer or the creators, right, is like when they use your application, so they can earn the money from when they try to boost up the rental from the application. Or
yeah, I think it's my fault because I didn't explain this well. Essentially, the way it works is that one, a hotel guest can be an influencer. So if you're in a hotel, you can post pictures of that hotel, and you can monetize it as well, as well as the influencers. And the key point is that everyone gets compensated proportional to their contribution to that hotel's profile. For example, imagine you have Hilton Hotel Tokyo, and that hotel has a profile just like on Instagram on Stan Davis. And let's say they have 100 pictures on their profile. So whenever somebody makes a booking, maybe if they make a booking through your photo, then you get 70% of the 20% that was dedicated as commission. And then everyone else shares the remaining 30% proportional to maybe, let's say, it's going to be a complicated algorithm, but let's say proportional to how many pictures they've put in there, how many likes they have on those pictures, or any other metric that will deem fit.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I think just a quick comment from me. So I think there are also different types of hotels. So like, let's say a Hilton at Tokyo is probably targeting really high-end customers. And then I think probably you need to find a better fit between the content creators and the high-end, the C-suite sort of customers, because your everyday influencer may not reach this particular group of users. So I think there is some sort of dissonance there that perhaps need to be sort of sorted out. And if you were to narrow it down, then you realize that the number of content creators that are creating for this particular group of customers are pretty small. So then do you want, if you were to increase this range of content creators, then your users will change as well. And then that will allow you to know what type of hotel to target. So maybe this is something that you can think about. Thank you. Thanks for it.
It's always like a chicken and egg situation for like this type of like the service. Reason, yeah. If you have like a quick question, we can take it.
Yeah, it's a quick one, just following up on the monetization part. So when you mentioned that the influencers or guests post the pictures of the hotel they're staying at, where do those pictures go? Do they go on just Stan Davis profile, or does the hotel get the image rights and they can use the image anywhere?
Yeah, good question. So again, this is the part of the implementation where we haven't fully ironed out, but the way we're envisioning it right now is that one, the influencer has their own profile, which means everything they post goes to their personal profile. But then two, we'll also prompt the hotel that, hey, Rhythm just posted a picture of your hotel, you'd want to check it out, you know? And when they check it out and when they think it's good enough to add to the hotel's feed, they can easily in one tap just add it to their feed. And as soon as it's accepted to the hotel's feed, any booking that is made, your photo will also be, will be counted in that. Yeah.
Cool. So Jack, you could choose next company to pitch.
Oh,
Greenbook or or Namaste.
Yeah, Namaste asked me so many questions. He gets to go.
Okay, yeah, sorry for the noise. So I'm presenting Namaste, and we are here to put yoga instructors basically out of business. And before you ask how, because you wonder how am I going to do that with Namaste, let's see into why first, and then we'll get to how Namaste does that. Okay, so let's say this is the persona number one, which is a yoga beginner. So I had a chat with Jerry, who's an engineer at a startup, who's having some back pain due to his long working hours and sitting and working continuously, where his friend suggested him that he should practice yoga for the fitness. But here's the problem with Jerry, because his work hours are not that fixed, plus his social life can get into his busy schedule. He's a young man, he can full of energy and likes to be very social as well. So he cannot really commit to fixed yoga class schedules. So what does this guy do then? For flexibility in timings, you cannot really have a personal trainer at midnight or 11 p.m. or you cannot really attend group classes usually at evening time because you. So Jerry goes to YouTube to learn yoga poses. He also downloads this very popular app called Download. but he is not impressed because he has to rely on the very small screen of his phone. And when he goes to YouTube, what does he get there? No guidance. And he's a beginner. So all the solutions, which are the very popular solution on app stores, only give you a video tutorial or a step-by-step in text-based instructions, which lacks personal guidance. So how does Namaste, your personal AI yoga trainer, helps in here? It teaches you yoga poses step by step at your own pace and personal space. So you don't need to worry about a YouTube video where you have to copy an instructor. You will learn a yoga pose each step by step accurately while receiving personalized feedback as the application scans your posture through camera and critiques and gives you feedback so you can accurately perform every posture with each detailed angle. And as Jerry also had a problem with flexibility, but when you have Namaste, you can just run the app on your laptop, PC, tablet, iPad, just anywhere and anytime. So now we have next persona, which is an intermediate yoga practitioner. So I had a chat with Sophia, who is a 19-year-old college student, and she got inspired by social media fitness influencers to practice yoga. So she did learn some poses from YouTube. And when I asked her why through YouTube, why did you start watching videos, why not otherwise? She said she couldn't really afford paying $20 an hour for group classes, let alone $50 an hour for private classes. And in order to save that cost, when she tried a donation-based yoga organization called Yoga to People, it's very popular in the US, she felt she did not receive enough attention when she was in group classes because one instructor and 20 students, you don't really get much attention. So she would basically rely on her friend who would check her pose and tell her how she's doing. But even COVID disrupted that, and they were only meeting through Zoom now. So for such intermediate yoga practitioner, how would Namaste help them? So Namaste will give them detailed feedback after scanning the pose to exactly understand which angles they are performing well, which not. Because it's really important to perform the posture correctly. Because if you're performing inaccurately, even the movement from start to end, it can actually be detrimental to your health. And instead of giving you the benefits, it can cause other pain. And she also doesn't need to rely on a friend anymore. She can just place the device anywhere, set a timer, and perform the pose. And the app will capture the pose through the camera, and it will scan it, and it will give a detailed feedback on it, like what angle of your posture are well aligned and which one are not. And you might also think about the third persona would be the professional. Well, that's in our long-term vision, which we will talk about someday else. And our current competitors. So firstly, indirect ones are just basically YouTube, which we already talked about, does not really give you personalized feedback or anything. You just have to depend on how well you copy the instructor. And there are other fitness AI apps. But the funny thing is, they are only AI for the sake of AI. But they aren't as intelligent in giving you feedback. More or less, what most of the apps do are just calculate your reps, how many reps you're making. Let's say you were doing some fitness exercise, they will count how many reps you did, how many sets you did. Or let's say you're using some AI yoga app, they will check if you are doing a certain pose which only relies on classification. It does not give you a tip on how to improve your pose. There are only two very popular apps. One of them is Xenia, but the problem with Xenia is that It only tells you how accurately you're copying the instructor's video. You place the app, there will be an instructor performing the pose, and you perform the pose. It will tell you how accurately you're copying. And you have to rely on the pace of the instructor. It is not very user-centric application. Another app which we have, Yogify and Yoga Notch, they rely on hardware like wearing certain sensors or having a IoT yoga mat, which can be an expensive solution and not very accessible by all. For regarding the money, we are planning to have a freemium pricing model where a user will have access to almost all the features, but limited to only a few of the courses. So they get to know, in essence, how everything works, but limited to only a very few basic poses. And if they want to have the full package, they will have to have monthly subscription plans. Currently, the worldwide yoga industry stands at $80 billion, and Americans themselves spend $16 billion annually only on classes and equipment. So there's definitely potential to tap into the market by providing unique features which are very absent in the market currently. There's no single app which is giving personalized AI feedback and is popular or is in mainstream. There's really an empty field there waiting for someone to capture. And with that, I would like to say thank you. And please feel free to ask me any questions.
Cool. Let's take 2 questions. It's a bit longer actually, like 8 minutes and a half. So yeah, let's take 2 questions. I thought like you're gonna start with like yoga actually. That's why. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, how would you pitch your product as superior to ones that also incorporate hardware solutions like Mira? Have you heard of Mira?
Yeah, good question. So as I think I mentioned 2 of them in the slide where they make use of a yoga mat which has some special sensors, and considering the mirror as well. Yeah, there are effective solutions, but it comes about accessibility when you have hardware. It's not easy to sell a hardware product internationally in different countries, especially because you have manufacturing in one country and then shipment. So the scalability comes an issue. And second, your audience also kind of reduces because hardware, if you go to buy a hardware compared to downloading an app, it will always be expensive, and that leaves out a major portion of your customer base as well. And with modern technology, especially with such cool pose estimation techniques, we can actually make a lot out of just simple camera feed without the need of hardware.
Let's take 1 more question. Yeah, go ahead, Asma.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rhythm, for the presentation. I was curious about how, because I feel like your target audience, you did a lot of research about it and you understand them quite well. But one attribute that I see among yoga people is this idea of ease and actually an attempt to move away from technology and do something more relaxing. How are you going to create your product to still fit that sentiment and that need of, just like more an organic spiritual flow rather than perhaps something that seems to be very technological and actually binding you to your phone?
Yeah, I actually gave it a thought once, because I think that's also a very important reason why people do yoga sometimes, more the spirituality and that, like connecting with your own body as an experience as well. And in order to give that human touch in long term, I am planning to incorporate NLP with natural voice. So which firstly, you don't have to look at the screen, so you can just feel free while performing certain poses and listen to the human voice-based feedback. And secondly, I'm also another one extra addition could be a soothing music, especially just played around yoga, would play in background, so it also kind of gives you the vibe. But I definitely think there's also more to look into regarding this question when it comes to considering the spiritual experience of yoga.
Cool. Koda, yeah, quick one. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. What do you think you could do to expand the variety of moves you could do in the future? As like, you know, some moves require more than like a 2D photo.
Yeah, there are definitely a few limitations. We cannot cover all the poses because there are some poses which actually require looking at you from multiple angles at once. I know there's one pose where you need to have hands joined on the back, where it can be difficult to even have a front view and back view because we are only limited to one single camera as an input here. So that is something I guess we have to think how we can deal with it. But there are many other poses which can only be sufficed from just one angle. It may not be front, but it can be side. Like for tree pose, you can do front. While if you want to do down dog, you cannot do front because that will not give a right view. But if you do it sideways, then the app can actually make inferences from it and
Oh, wow.
still work on some poses.
So changing your angles, like where you take it from, you could like increase the number of moves you could analyze.
Exactly, yeah. So you just have to change your angle. And that will also be guided through the application. So let's say for a beginner, it would first show like to which angle you should be facing to the camera. So it works that we can efficiently target angles which need to be looked at from side or front.
Thanks.
Cool. Let's move to Green Book. That's the last one.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, it somehow started at the end. I'll try to keep it very short because I think we're running a little out of time. Yeah, feel free to also give me feedback after the pitch. So we are doing Green Book for the people that are new. And it's a behavior change app where we are trying to help anyone grow plants anywhere at home through a mindful way. And we are a team of 3. And the initial reason as to why we started Green Book was because we wanted to create an environment where people can grow their own plants and their own vegetables and kind of engage in this mindful practice of indoor gardening. We saw a big trend on the internet and just among friends and family where there is a need to do so. But the main feedback that we heard from people coming back is that it's hard to not get discouraged and to kind of go from seeds to plants. So we want to help people in doing that. And our initial target is small, like we want to do edible plants and house plants, but the goal is to ultimately help everyone have an indoor garden that satisfies them and helps them engage in this mindful practice. And what Green Book specifically does is it gives users both the knowledge, so there will be actual like action items and feedback given about how you're growing your plants and your edible plants, but also a community where you can share your your progress, where you can also share with other people your questions and kind of aspirations, and this component of accountability and just like publicly growing hopefully will keep people engaged and yeah, just create this social media app where plant enthusiasts, whether they're new or later in their stage, can come together and share and help each other in their process. So we did a lot of research. This is something that probably also comes familiar from the previous pitch, but we are reiterating through it. We identified key targets, audiences, and kind of based our hypothesis by reaching out to them. And this has been confirmed largely from the interviews that I did, where we do have this idea of a power user, someone that is an expert and someone that needs to learn. And our, like the main target audience that we try to create Greenbook tool will be the target audience. So people that needed that extra help are not experts yet. But what we also discovered, I would say like over the past few days, is a third segment that potentially will also make use of Greenbook and actually might become part of the target audience is this idea of more of an expert or professional, someone that actually already uses gardening or indoor gardening as some type of monetization for them, but feels the need to connect with other experts and mainly people within the botanical field or other stores and urban planners, and wants to have some more like industry expertise beyond like hobby indoor gardening. But they do target the majority of their products to indoor gardens. So they've indicated some type of enthusiasm as to wanting to be on the platform like Greenbook for the social component. So less so for the advice, which is like a secondary target audience, but more so for having a social media platform that is specifically for people in their industry and in their field, which is very interesting. And yeah, we should hypothesize more about in the future. Customer research. So the idea behind Greenbook is that we want to create a long-lasting behavioral change for multiple reasons. Indoor gardening has a lot of benefits, and we have multiple features that we're iterating through right now to make sure that this also gets incorporated. So we're using, for instance, gamification, accountability, like having some type of diary feature where people can keep track of their plants and update pictures, which all will help people to keep engaging and just lower the barrier of growing your indoor plants. It's mainly based on behavioral science, and this is something that we're still growing out. But these components of accountability, shared community, have proven to be helpful for people to continue whatever process it is, especially in something like a hobby like gardening. Our main feature and our main value added is accessible planting advice. That's where we're trying to differentiate from competitors as well. Often advice is very scattered, as we've seen on other apps. So we want to keep it as simple and as accessible as possible, where people from all backgrounds of expertise can gain specific advice for their planting journey. The other secondary goal is to encourage local professional communities. So we hope that having an online community gives rise to also an in-physical community. And this is something that hasn't changed from previous pitches, but we are still thinking of having this freemium AI advisor component. We are iterating through the accuracy of the image recognition. So our target, I believe, is 60% now. And we're mainly focusing on home plants now, but the goal is to later on improve accuracy for also edible plants. And the reason why we are specifically targeting indoor gardening is because there's a lot of untapped potential. It is a big, it has a big market cap, and we see that not only what we previously thought was where monetization could happen was gardening equipment, but also creating a venue where other experts or other sellers can come together and have a marketplace to sell their own products. So that's potentially something that Greenbook can branch out to as well, and we want to incorporate in future customer research. So I think our main findings, or like the progress from our previous pitches, is that a big part of our hypothesis about our customer persona has been confirmed. And we just used mass surveying and try to do in-depth interviews. The retention is quite low, or like the return of people responding. So we just need to do more of that. And I think it's important to also just start launching our beta version of an app. We were also thinking, and this is something that we're probably going to launch in the upcoming few days, like having some type of internet trend, like engaging with some type of internet trend, because we saw that a big part of our customer segment is actually not only on the platforms that we initially thought like Facebook, but also on TikTok. So kind of advertising Greenbook through these platforms is probably going to be interesting. And that's also what a lot of the customers have indicated, like where they had their first encounter with planting and gardening. And yeah, on the tech side, I think the main thing is, and Arnav can jump in here, is to just keep improving the image recognition accuracy. I think the target is going to be 60% from what I'm understanding. And hopefully we'll also be able to prepare some better version so customers can click through it and give us feedback on the features and just like the accessibility of the app itself.
Cool. Let's take 2 questions from audiences. Yeah, go ahead, Connor.
Are you considering like a like sponsor as like a sponsorship as like a method a monetization method? Because I could see like, you know how sometimes Instagram are sponsored by different like fashion companies in exchange for like featuring them in their Instagram shop segment. Like I can easily see how like, I don't know, like a gardening company could give you like a sponsorship deal to feature their products in your app. Do you think you're considering that as like an option?
I can jump in, or Anna, I think she rose her hand. I can compliment whatever you answer.
Hey, thanks for the question. I think for the social network, a huge part of our philosophy about it was to create a space where people can interact and talk about plans and support each other. We deliberately thought against incorporating any kind of ads that would disturb this kind of interactions. A lot of like, a huge part of us thinking about the long-lasting behavior change and thinking about behavior change strategies is also us thinking about like the ethical approaches around it. So we kind of opted for having the store instead, as if kind of like another potential monetization for exactly the thing that you're saying, but instead of like featuring it on people's feeds and like bombarding them with advertisements, we allow the users when they need it to actually go to the store, and there can be like different companies featured. So those are the thoughts we've had so far.
Thank you for answering the question.
Another question? Go ahead, Mridul.
Yeah, so what would be your core feature here? I see you mentioned a marketplace, a community, social media, but if you were to say what is Dream, would you say it's a social media for plant enthusiasts, or is it a community for plant enthusiasts?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the primary goal is that it's a community app, a place where people can come together and share both their questions and their expertise and holding each other accountable where in their planting journey. So that will be the primary feature. So then there is also a freemium feature for the AI advisor, where you can specifically upload images of your plant growth and get advice on how to improve that journey. But its primary goal is to just create an online community where people from different backgrounds of expertise can come together and share advice, and from there on build to potentially a marketplace. But that's not our core focus, because we personally came to the conclusion that that's very far down the road. Like, you'll need to have some type of cloud first, where enough people engage with it before advertisers like gardeners and botanists are even willing to use it as a marketplace. So yeah, its initial goal is to help people grow plants at home by creating a community for them.
Anna, do you still like raise your hand? So you want to add any comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to compliment the Asma's response. I think she correctly did explain that we are really community focused. I know to some of you this might come as a surprise, because this is supposed to be like a business idea, which it is. But given the competitor analysis that we've conducted, we realized that a lot of people are not really willing to pay as much money for example, the AI advisor. So then they either use it for a 7-day free trial and then they drop off and they never pay, or when they hit immediately with the paywall, they're just not interested in getting the app. So then we realized it's quite risky to rely only on the idea that we will be a problem solution kind of service, where someone has a problem, then they go to our app and they solve that problem. And we decided to shift more towards that user engagement and community-based approach. Whereas in the future, we can still capitalize on it in a way that neither of any of the existing apps are capitalizing, which is by creating the marketplace.
Cool. Nelson, do you have any comment or things you wanted to add or share?
I think that since the time is also running out, so just to comment. I think that the question from the members is rapidly increasing compared to the last week. So I think that what kind of question you can ask is that at the same time it shows what kind of point you're now focusing on. So I think that compared to the last week, I think that this week the Q&A was very nice. So I think that, yeah, of course, the time is considering the time and the quality of the question. I think that, yeah, I think that I don't need to add anything for this week.
Awesome. Cool. In that case, we can wrap up today's session, and then we can take a group picture for the thumbnail for the our YouTube video. All right. He can turn on the camera. If he not, that's fine too. All right. 3, 2, 1, cheese. Nice, Jack. Awesome. Cool. In that case, see you guys on Slack. And the next, just like our side of the